Hello everyone, let's talk about AWS S3, how to store your data efficient and cheap. First up, let's understand what is S3. It's a cloud-based object storage system where you can store your data easily. It is scalable, it can scale and allow you to store how much ever data you want to do. And it is completely serverless, means you need not configure or provision any servers, and it follows pay-as-you-go policy. You just pay for how much ever data you store and that's it. Now, to understand how to use it efficiently and cheaply, you need to know three different things. The first one is called storage classes. The second one is a service called intelligent tiering. The third one is something called lifecycle management. Let us start with storage classes. So what is storage classes? It is basically different storage configuration what S3 allows you to choose when you store your files. So we will start with the basic one. It is called standard. So when do you use it? You use it for all the data which you are going to access frequently. It is the general purpose storage class what you use by default. So the storage cost what you incur is nominal. Stay tuned, and in the later part of the video I will show you the exact storage cost and how it compares as well. And then we have one more storage class called standard infrequent access or standard IA. As the name says, you use this storage class when you want to store your data and retrieve it quickly, but you are going to do it infrequently, means you may not do it multiple times a day, maybe you do it once a week or once a month or once a day and stuff like that. The storage cost is lower than standard, it is cheaper. You might be wondering, if it is cheaper than standard, then why will anyone use standard? Everyone will use standard IA, right? But there is a catch. There is an additional cost called the retrieval cost. The retrieval cost in case of standard is again nominal, but it is higher in case of standard infrequent access. So if you store your files and you access them very frequently, do not think you can be smart and choose standard IA. You will end up paying more because there is a higher retrieval cost you pay every time you retrieve your objects. So high frequently accessed objects, you use standard. So if it is low frequently accessed or infrequently accessed, you use standard IA. Let's go to the next storage class, that is called one zone infrequent access. Again, this is for data which is not accessed very frequently. This is even cheaper than standard IA as well, and the retrieval cost is same as standard IA. Again, you might be wondering, hey, I will use one zone IA all the time, but there is a catch. That is the resiliency. While standard and standard IA stores your data in three different availability zones, one zone stores your data in only one availability zone. Mean in case of any disaster like tsunami, earthquake or something, there is a higher chance your data could get lost. So you should use one zone infrequent access only for the data which is not critical or for the data which you can recreate later. Next comes the part of express one zone. So this is used when you want the data to be very frequently accessed and very rapidly with very minimal latency. That is when you use express one zone, and the storage cost is definitely costlier even than the standard. But the retrieval cost is lot cheaper than standard. But again, the catch is that it is stored in only one availability zone. So you need to be careful, you need to evaluate your requirements and then choose the right storage class. If you are finding this video interesting and knowledgeable so far, please consider subscribing to our channel and also do share this video with your friends and colleagues. Now let us talk about the archival storage classes. The first one is called Glacier Instant. So this is for basically storing your data which you are going to archive for long-term purposes, but whenever you retrieve, you want to be able to retrieve instantly. So that is called Glacier Instant. The storage cost is definitely lower than standard. The retrieval cost is definitely higher than standard, even higher than standard infrequent access. Because it is an archival layer, you should not be ideally retrieving it very frequently. You should retrieve it very rarely, but whenever you do, you will be able to do it within few milliseconds. The next one is called Glacier Flexible Retrieval. Again, this is for archival, but you do not need instant retrieval. Rather, it can be flexible. At times you want to instantly retrieve, at times you can wait for a few minutes, and at times you can wait even for a few hours. The cost of storage is even lower than Glacier Instant. Here comes the part of retrieval. So there are multiple modes what AWS S3 offers you. One is called quick retrieval, where you kind of retrieve the data in a standard fashion. You basically wait for a few minutes to retrieve the data, and it definitely costs a decent amount. Next is something called bulk retrieval, where you wait for a few hours for the data to get retrieved, but that is cheaper. So if you are going for Glacier flexible, you have the flexibility to choose whether you want to retrieve in standard mode or bulk mode, bulk being a lot cheaper or almost free, standard being somewhat costlier, but you get the data in few minutes time. The third one is called Glacier Deep Archive. So this is for extremely long-term archival purposes, where you are going to store the data for like 5 years, 10 years and stuff like that. This is the cheapest storage class in terms of storage cost. Again, this is the data is stored in 3 different availability zones, but the retrieval cost here is costlier than even the Glacier flexible retrieval. So this is the layer where you might most probably not even retrieve the data, but maybe for legal purposes or regulatory purposes, you want to store the data. And there is another factor which you need to consider when you choose among the storage classes. That is the minimum storage time. In case of standard or express 1 zone, there is no minimum storage time. You can store the data for 1 or 2 days and then you can delete it. But there is a minimum 30-day period in case of standard IA or 1 zone IA, which goes up to 90 days or 180 days in case of Glacier models. Now it's time for us to quickly understand the intelligent tiering and lifecycle management. So what is intelligent tiering? Here basically AWS S3 automatically analyzes your usage pattern and it will move your files or your objects across these different storage classes what we just saw. It's completely automatic. We just need to configure and pay a minimal charge for this automation, and rest is done automatically by S3. Again, you get a lot of benefits as well. We will talk about it shortly. There is a third thing called lifecycle management, where you can manually configure how to move your objects between different storage layers and how to even delete files which are extremely longer and hence giving you cost saving. So intelligent tiering kind of does it automatically by dynamically looking at your usage pattern. Lifecycle management is more of rule based, where you can configure the rules on when the files have to move to different storage classes, but there is no automation charge which you pay. Now let us quickly compare the intelligent tiering and the lifecycle management as well. So once you use intelligent tiering, let's understand when you use it first, right? You use it when you do not know your file usage pattern. Hey, am I going to frequently access it? Am I going to infrequently access it? Or you just do not want to take care of that headache. You just go ahead and use intelligent tiering and let AWS manage it for you. So what is the storage cost? It depends on the actual usage. Intelligent tiering stores your file in 3 different storage classes. First is standard, and if there is no activity, if there is no retrieval for 30 days, it moves it to standard infrequent access. And if there is no retrieval for 90 days, it moves it to Glacier instant retrieval. You can also additionally configure it to move to Glacier Deep Archive after 180 days or so. The data is mostly stored into 3 availability zones, so there is no problem on the resiliency part. The retrieval cost, here is a great thing, it is free. Even if your data is stored in standard infrequent access, or even if it is stored in Glacier Archive Instant, the retrieval is still free. AWS internally manages it. If you are going to frequently access the data, AWS will move the data back from Glacier Archive to standard or standard IA. All of that is taken care by S3 behind scenes. You do not pay for the retrieval. Except one catch, if you configure to use Deep Archive, you might still pay for the retrieval, but apart from that, the retrieval is free. This is one of the prime benefit of using intelligent tiering. But what is the drawback? There is a fixed monthly charge you are gonna pay for this monitoring and automation. And this charge depends on the number of objects you have. The more objects you have, the higher charge you pay for the maintenance. Now comes the part of manual lifecycle management. Again, this is to basically kind of, automatically make your files move across different storage layers. But as I mentioned earlier, this is rule based. You can configure after how many days the file has to go from one storage layer to another storage layer. And you have complete control over which storage layer you want to choose, after how many days it has to move and stuff like that. But the retrieval is not free. Retrieval is based on the actual storage class, which was free in case of intelligent tiering. And there is no monitoring charge, there is no automation charge because you are configuring your rules to do the lifecycle management. There is one tool called storage class analysis, which AWS S3 offers. You can leverage that to understand your usage pattern and then decide how to configure your lifecycle policies as well. So before we wind up, let us quickly look at the cost comparison as well. So I have taken one of the AWS regions and here I have put the cost for storage as well as retrieval for the different storage layers, starting with standard till Glacier Deep Archive. Now, if we look at the storage cost, the most costliest is the Express 1 zone, that is $0.11. The second costliest is the standard. The next cheaper one is standard infrequent access. 1 zone is even more cheaper, and the Glacier layers are obviously a lot more cheaper. And the Deep Archive is extremely cheap because you are not at all going to access it frequently. Next comes the cost of retrieval. This will almost be reversed to what we saw for the storage. The highest costing is the Glacier Deep Archive or the Glacier Flexible Retrieval, depending on which mode of retrieval you are doing. If you are doing a standard retrieval, if you are doing an expedited retrieval or a bulk retrieval. Next is the Glacier Instant, that comes as the third in terms of retrieval cost, and then it goes on, and the cheapest one, as you can see, is the Express 1 zone, because this storage class, it meant for frequent high quick access. So that is the cheapest to retrieve and probably the costliest to store. I hope you got a good idea of different storage classes, the intelligent tiering and the lifecycle management. I hope this video gives you a good idea of how you can store files efficiently, how to store the right storage class and stuff like that. If you want me to do a hands-on on how to do all of this, please add a comment. And also, if I should do a video by taking practical use cases and then choosing the storage classes, drop your comment in the comment section.